even if I have a treadmill in my basement and a bike and a rowing machine, I'm still find myself overweight because I wasn't actually motivated to use those tools that were at my disposal. Each of us have something that's we know that we need to be doing it. It's just finding that motivation, and we got a rational knowledge of what needs to happen on the surface. But how do we get that under the surface pressure going to make that happen? Shalom, and welcome to Well Watered Garden Podcast, the show that waters women who are rooted and women who are thirsty with Yah's grace. I am Lady Tirtzah Lewis, and today I am speaking with my beautiful sisters, Geveret Shula Yisrael and Maura Kelly Bonner.
Thank you, Tirza, for inviting me to come and participate in Well Watered Gardens first year. Grateful to be here. Thankful for the opportunity.
Shalom, shalom. Super excited to be here and to kick off this awesome opportunity to water women in a beautiful way. So thanks for having me.
Today we are talking about motivation, and the title of this podcast is Motivation Stimulation. So let's just go ahead and maybe talk about, definitions for motivation, or what you think about when you think about the word motivation or to motivate.
When Sister Tirza first brought this out, I was like, wow, I've just been looking at things on motivation. And one of the definitions I found in an article last week was that motivation can be defined as the process by which a goal-directed activity is generated and supported. So you're motivated by something. I think another writer said motivation is motive and action together. So we are motivated by something, but it's goal-oriented. So if it's not a goal, if it's not something you're aspiring to, you're not going to be motivated to do it.
Okay, so a statement I've seen on motivation is that it's the difference between action and inaction. It's the difference between thinking about doing something and actually getting it done. And so when I think about motivation, I'm always thinking about movement. I'm always thinking about stimulation. I'm always thinking about something that's driving a result or behavior. If I'm not motivated in a certain area, then you won't see me producing any fruit or any action in that area. But the things that I'm motivated about, like I'm showing up here, you all are showing up here too.
Right.
I'm going to show up for. I'm going to actually put effort into. I'm going to actually cultivate. And so when I think about motivation, I'm always thinking about the kind of the underneath of something. If it's a volcano, it's whatever that pressure and lava and tectonic plates or whatever is happening underneath the surface that's causing the result that we see at the top.
The why, would you say?
Right. Yep.
Yeah, I would say
that. Yeah, and I really like that what Kelly said about motive and action. What is the reason? Why are you doing what you're doing? What's the underlying cause? I just thought of root cause analysis. Always looking at the why. Whenever you find the answer, what lies beneath that as well. So yeah, what's the motive, and what's behind every action?
Each of us on here are mentors, leaders of women. We have children as well. And so it's important for us to have understanding of how to both produce movement within ourselves and also how to instigate movement in others. Because I think that if we are only looking at things from a surface perspective of, I don't see this person moving in this direction, let me help that person move in this direction, we may not be actually motivating them. We might actually be demotivating them, depending on how we go about that.
That's a great point. We're starting our second semester soon at school, and just as an administrator, getting things ready and how can I motivate staff? How can I motivate um, students? How can we get them moving in the direction that we want them to go? And that, at the end of the day, they have to see the value in what we're doing, the value in what we're trying to produce. And the same thing with our kids. Like, I have 3 boys, and sometimes it's the movement is not there, and so, what, and that's knowing them, like knowing your people, knowing yourself. um as God said, we are fully known, and to know him as we are fully known. So he fully knows us. He knows what motivates, what demotivates, what throws us off, what keeps us on track, and he wants us to operate like he operates in thought and speech and deed. So that was a really good point.
I like that you brought up recognizing value when it comes to motivation. Sometimes being motivated to do a thing can be difficult, to motivate someone or for someone to be motivated because they don't yet not only see the value in what it is that they're getting, but the value in what it is, in the outcome, for themselves, or that they're more valuable than they think that they are. A lot of the times people have a hard time realizing their um, internal value, that the Most High sees value in each of us. If he didn't see value in each of us, trust me, he could take you out, at any moment, at his discretion. But um, with him having value and purpose for each of us, I think that like that for me motivates me on a daily basis, knowing that um, I woke up like it's just those little tiny things that I think that a lot of the times we don't value, but that can have the greatest motivation. Like, I woke up today, I have another chance, that motivates me to do what I need to do for my family, to, do what I need to do, in my profession, to do, what it is that the Father is calling me for me to do on a daily basis. But recognizing your value, and realizing that you are more valuable than you think you are.
Do you think that motivation is rational? Is it connected to knowledge?
It can be rational and it can be irrational. You can be motivated to do things that are healthy and motivated to do things that are not healthy. And it all depends upon the why, and it kind of again ties it back into, um, we see a lot of people out here that we would say lack motivation. And they may or may not know why. Um, so to them, maybe it's not rational. Maybe they're not thinking, I think a lot of it has to do with perspective, right? Rationality, I think, is subjective as well. Um, it can
Yeah,
be,
I mean,
right?
I think when I look at some of the decisions that I make and some of the things that I see other people do, because I don't want to just make it be about what I see other people do. I'll put myself in the bucket. I see it as being kind of like weakly correlated to rationality because, for example, someone who knows that they're, I'll put myself in that bucket, overweight. I know that it's good for me to get on this treadmill and on this bike, but it's hard. it's hard to motivate myself to do something that I know that I need to be doing. And then if I start exercising and I don't see the results fast enough, whereas maybe a week into it, I've been doing all of this and I didn't even lose a pound. I just lost a half a pound, let's just say. Then I'm gonna be like, oh, I did all that work, but I'm not necessarily like weighing it out and saying, okay, I did all this good stuff. And it's good that I'm doing this and I need to be doing this. Um, but it's kind of when I'm dealing with it in my rational mind, I could think about it in a rational way, but a lot of times that falls short from motivating me to do the things that I know in my mind that I need to do. Because we find that people get stuck. They get stuck in these things, and it's so hard to find a way out, even if the door is wide open. Even if I have a treadmill in my basement and a bike and a rowing machine, I'm still find myself overweight because I wasn't actually motivated to use those tools that were at my disposal. And so I don't want to throw anyone under the bus. Each of us have something we know that we need to be doing it. It's just finding that motivation, and we got a rational knowledge of what needs to happen on the surface, but how do we get that under the surface pressure going to make that happen?
That's a good point. You're right. We all have those things that we have to tackle and take care of. And I saw a quote that said, "Change is the end result of all true learning." So when you're talking about motivation and knowledge, and there's a book on change that says people will not change until the pain. People will not change until the pain of not changing is greater. So there has to be, you know, that motivating factor to switch. But as long as you're comfortable, as long as you rationalize it in your mind and it's okay, then we're not going to change.
We just let
Okay,
that soak
we'll
for a
soak.
moment.
Okay.
because because if this is exciting. This is exciting, stuff. I need that. I need to hear that too. Because it's like sometimes, we're not going to change until the numbers show us what we really have been rejecting or denying this whole time, right?
Okay.
Sometimes we're not going to change until we get all the way to the end of ourselves, and then we're crying out to the Father for wisdom from on high, to show us how to move forward in an area. So that's awesome, because I see that as being relatable to me. A lot of times people are not going to change, and people are not going to move until they don't have a choice in the matter.
Screensaver on my phone says, "Do it anyway. Do it anyway." And so in some instances, discipline trumps motivation. So I'm not motivated, but will I be disciplined? And then the motivation will come. So my example, I have been struggling with 5 a.m. For about, been a grip about 3-4 years. Like some days I'm motivated, some days I'm not. Some days I'm in the prayer closet and it is amazing every time I'm in there, but do I have the motivation to do it every day? Like I know what's going to happen when I go in. I know how I'm going to feel in the start of my day, but I lack the discipline to be consistent. And then the Father shows me something else. I stumbled upon prayer watches. And so 5 a.m. is the fourth watch. The fourth watch is when Yeshua walked on the water to the disciples. The fourth watch is when he redeemed Israel from the Egyptians. So it's like, no, this is your watch time. So then I had to get a little knowledge, dig in a little deeper. And now it's like, okay, I gave you more information. Are you going to show up? That's your watch. I've called you to that watch. I wake you up personally for that watch, will you be disciplined to get out of the bed, and then the motivation will come. So that's what I'm working on. So we'll see how it goes in the morning. Praise God.
Keep showing up. Keep showing up. Yeah.
Yeah, please do. Please do. For me personally, as far as motivation goes, um, I always have to keep the end in mind. Like, and everything that I do, and I know that this life gets so convoluted, and this is just maybe, like just on, like just in practical terms, um, I want to dwell in the house of the Lord forever, okay? Um, Forever. Okay. That is the end. I think we were reading be sober and be vigilant earlier. Another word for vigilant is to be disciplined, because um, those are times where, the people need those prayers because the enemy is out. Those are times where sometimes, we don't even know what we're praying for. We don't even know. It's just, sometimes the tears is for somebody completely different than we have in mind. We may be praying for one thing and, because, because we're all one family, it goes up for another person, um, but being sober and being vigilant, um, but keeping the end in mind. I talked last year about possessing your soul like with patience, like enduring to the end. Those that endure to the end, the race is not to the swift or to the mighty, like you have to endure. And if nothing else, you have life and you have, another opportunity um to make it to the end. Like I want to dwell in God's house forever. That's my end goal for not just my life. Yes, I have life goals. Um, but my life goals, can have a direct effect on my spiritual, what's going on with me spiritually, is what I'm doing in my life gonna get me there.
Yeah, and I think that faith for us who are of the household of faith is definitely should be our main motivator. The Holy Spirit. Um, I think about what you were saying, Revelation 12, verse 11, where it says they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death. And I think about if you are put into a life and death situation, or a situation in which there's like in the book of Maccabees, where people's children are being killed, um, you're not going to be motivated unto death if if you're not fully, invested in your faith, if you don't fully believe. Um, and I think about that too, because James, he says, faith without works is dead. If you have faith that's motivating you, then you're going to have works. There's no such thing as having faith and no works. There's no such thing as having motivation for righteousness and no righteous fruit as a result, right? And so these things are connected.
I'm off work for a few weeks, so I've been kicking up my books here. But The Happiness Advantage by Sean Anker, man, it's a good book. But he said beliefs are so powerful because they dictate our efforts and our actions. So when you said that, it's like, no, what we believe, like we believe that we are called to rest on Shabbat. And so therefore it dictates us being off work, preparing our homes and all of these things because we believe that our Father rewards righteousness. We believe that. And therefore, it dictates what we say. It dictates, the light we shine. It dictates all of those things. So when you were talking about motivation and faith being connected, I was like, it's right there. Absolutely.
When evaluating our lives, why is it important to determine the motives behind our current actions, lifestyles, etc.?
As those that are of the household of faith, um, our intention and our kavana is, it has to be at the forefront of the motives of our activities in our daily lives. Um, you know, a lot of times, an apology will come. I didn't intend, that wasn't my intention. A lot of the times, we get caught in situations where our intentions don't necessarily line up with our actions. And so, getting your intentions in line with how you move uh, I think it's just a driving force. Like when you go into that prayer closet, when I go and when I visualize myself praying, on my watch, I see myself walking to the door of the throne room. I see myself taking a moment before I'm let in. I can see myself, then, being led before the king, and having the opportunity, to speak or to give thanks and um, to speak to like the king of the universe, so, um, yeah, Yahweh, he doesn't do anything without intention. He doesn't do anything without a motive. He doesn't do anything. He has the end in mind from the beginning. So this is how we are supposed to, walk out our daily lives and moving in intention. If you don't have intention, if you're not thinking about the motive behind what you're doing, then you're asking for confusion. And God is not the author of confusion. So, being more intentional and more disciplined and more thoughtful in our actions, um, those are game changers, for a lot of people. And I think it's important to really, really think, even just the words, what are you saying out of your mouth? Like, why are you saying what you're saying? And to whom, why are you saying this to this person? Just being mindful about, do you intend to build? You know, do you intend to break down? Like what is your motive, even when, in everything that you do, in your speech, in your actions, um, you know, our motive, especially as wise women, it should be to build. Um, and I think that using intention will better help us to be able to do that.
Well, would you say that Yah judges our motivations? Or is it just the result?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's gonna judge your actions. You know why? Because your heart
Yeah.
and your mind
Yeah.
should be aligned. Caught up in your lovey-dovey emotions. Meanwhile, your brain is telling you to do something else, and you need to listen to your higher self.
Right.
You know what I mean? Which, should really be guiding. Like it, people got to get that connection between
Yeah.
the heart and the mind down. Um, that disconnection, um, that disconnection, I think, is what is causing the lack of the ability to hear, or the lack of the ability to, be
Hmm.
rational. It's relative and it's subjective, and it's based on We talked about value earlier. We talked about, is what's being given to you, do you see the value in it? Do you value yourself enough to pick it up and keep it with you and use it and apply it? That's two different things that need to be worked on, and unfortunately, you know, people go through things because they don't see the value.
Right. They don't see the value, or they don't have the knowledge, or because in
which is
Hebrews,
invaluable.
right. And so in Hebrews 4:12, it says that he is um a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart. So he knows, like, before the thought, before it came, he knew. And if from the abundance of the heart the mouth speaks, and we know that the brain drives behavior. So if it's there in the mind to just do it, or like sister said, not seeing value, getting to the why. Well, I'm in this relationship because he loves me. Well, why does he love you? What's the evidence? What's the fruit of his love? And so when you don't, or you have not experienced the Father's love in a way that changes your behavior, then you're still in a place of not knowing, because change is the end result of true learning. Just think of the compassion that, Yeshua shared, and everything, the healing that took place. There were people that were part of the crowd, and then you had disciples. There's always a difference. Some are just here for the healing, some are just here for a good word. Not everybody's going to follow. Not everyone is motivated or has a desire to follow, but you break bread anyway. You do it anyway.
Oh yeah, that's right. I love what both of you are saying. It's very edifying and fulfilling.
Um, I was having a conversation with my mom, and she asked me about our faith, and I'm trying to explain, and her response is, well, that's what we do. And I said, well, not exactly. Because I think the knowledge is different, and therefore the motivation is different. And some of it is just, I don't want to go to hell, but there's not an underlying behavior to draw near. So there's like, the motivations are different. Like, I'm walking this way because, getting to the why, what's the root cause? Because when I was an enemy, he loved me. And it said over and over in his word, if I love him, that I'll keep his commandments. Well, why do you do that? Because the heart is deceitful above all. And in order for me to be selfless like my rabbi, I have to be a living sacrifice. And anything that I thought once was right, I'm going to follow him. When you talked about motivation and values and faith, and I think you said revelation, not loving our lives unto death. You see Moses doing that. Hey, blot me out of the book. Selfless. I'll go anywhere. I'm out. Um, Judah, there was this maturity because he was willing to take the place of his brother. And that was not the case before. It wasn't the case when he was like, hey, burn Tamar for doing whatever she did. But there was something happened where there was a change in his behavior. There was a change in how he responded when different situations happened. And so that definition that you had about motivation theory, it recognizes that there's a force that underlies the behavior. my husband and talking about the inclinations and the two hearts and the mind and not being double-minded and being rooted and supported in the word. And so you have to know what underlies your behavior. As you said, it's everything that we've said just kind of coming back to the surface. One thing I had was being indifferent about everything that is opposite of the Father's will. That if it's not his will, then I don't want it. And so like we must be willing to change, because he does not change. We aren't consumed, but we must change in order to be more like him, driven, motivated, disciplined to do that work.
Hallelujah. When helping others, why is it important to first understand what is motivating them and to start there? I think that for us, especially that, we've been on this walk for years, the things that motivate us are not the same things that might motivate someone else. And so if we're talking to them and trying to help them and motivate them from something that we're motivated by, but we didn't first kind of help them to we didn't instigate that motivation in them, we can actually demotivate them. They can say, you know what? I'm not trying to come to your assembly or your congregation anymore. You know what I mean? I'm going to go ahead and keep on doing what I want to do because that's what I'm motivated by.
When, we are doing the second commandment, loving our neighbor as ourselves, after, of course, we love him with our heart, soul, and might, being created in his image, our duty is to do our best to try and understand and meet, meet people where they are. Because you're right. If you're talking, you're talking steak and not the sincere milk of the word, that people will choke. And, it's important to, bring the right dish to the table, depending upon who you're serving. That's something I like to feed people. I love to feed people. I love to, like take care of people in that way, and thinking about every single person that is going to be at the table. I can't serve them all the same thing. I may have a vegetarian, a vegan, a baby, one can eat soft food, one can eat cut up piece, so um being created in his image and knowing that he meets us where we are and gives us the opportunity to be built up, and he brings us he serves us, like he brings us everything that we need in order to be transformed. Nothing is by coincidence. I've been really looking at life more and more like that nothing is by coincidence. We were just reading, why you gosh, you were talking about Judah, and the change in his stance, and his level of maturity. It was the same for Yosef. By the end of things, he was saying, he was having dreams talking to his brothers, and he was like, hey, I had this dream, and it was me, and y'all was serving me. But then after he went through some hardships and he, had those experiences, he went to Pharaoh, the God of that land, and said, no, God is going to tell us what this is really about. you know um and through his experiences, he was able to come to the point to say, you may, all it was meant for our good. I was brought here, it wasn't in vain. It was to save many people alive. you know but he was also tuned in he may not have fully known what he was tuning into, but Joseph was tuned in, the entire time. Something that came to my mind as far as motivation, and something that I had been reading about and just learning more about was holy fear. Kelly was talking about how, you know, we do this because, we're commanded. And, when it comes to motivation and it comes to, understanding, why you're supposed to keep the commandments, why it's not healthy, for you to be in certain situations, why you don't want to, you do or don't want to do certain things. Having holy fear, I think it's a major motivator, because when you're not doing things because of fear of what you're not doing, the quote unquote right thing because you fear that you're going to go to hell. You're doing the right thing because you have this reverence and this honor, for the Most High. And, having holy fear as the motivation for what it is that you're doing, is it's a very important way to look at how we serve the Creator, because otherwise we are really serving our own needs. And, sometimes we can think that, well, I have good intentions. I'm doing this because I want to, because I want to see, or because, I have these goals and these desires inside of me. But, or I'm fearing that if I don't do this, then, I'm going to lose this, or I'm not going to be blessed in this way. But having a fear of the Creator it's outside of you, and it's important to remember that it has to be outside of you, or else you're really serving your own motives, and not necessarily the will of the Father, if we want His will to be done here in the earth.
Yeah, and I think that when people are coming to different assemblies and things of that nature, that should be something that they understand, because a lot of times people become people pleasers and they use that as motivation, but people pleasing will only get you but so far. If you're an adult, you're eventually going to do what you really want to do. If you're if you're an adult, you're going to be like, you know what, I'm tired of pleasing those people. I'm going to go ahead and do what I want. But if you're motivated by pleasing the Most High, that's something that's not going to change. Hallelujah. You keep on moving forward.
Hallelujah. Fear Him and keep His commandments.
Right. That is the duty of man. That is our reasonable service. And when you talked about holy fear, like we say, in the kids class, we talk about the love must be bounded by respect. And so, yes, I love you, but there's an aspect of, as you said, holy fear, reverence for your word and your expectations. So